Hi guys, it's Tradingene team with you. My name is Ruslan. Today we start our series of market analytics, weekly market analytics. So we will analyze several cryptocurrency pairs. We start with the Bitcoin dollar, we then move to Ethereum dollar, to Waves dollar, and to Bitcoin Cash. So since this is the first video, we're gonna start with the daily market analysis, and then we're gonna scale in, and for the following videos we will mostly focus on hourly charts. So what I use here is I use a 60-day simple moving average. I use 60 days simply because it's quite good to filter all the unnecessary signals, but still quite fast, so it's much better than 100 moving average, so at least from my experience. I also use here Williams percentage R. This is a really nice oscillator. I really like it, and I also use a 5-day smooth version of it. So the Williams is too hasty, I would say, but if you smooth it, it behaves really good. So, and we consider Bitfinex exchange because this is an exchange we currently use for our trading algorithms. So what we can actually see on a Bitcoin chart here, we see that there was some support at level of 6.5K that was at the beginning of April, and then some reverse happened, and actually the price even crossed the moving average line. So what I don't like about this reverse, even though it took some time, this is a good part, it took some time, it was really nice, and it wasn't done within the 1 day. It's a good, but I don't like that I don't see a really big volume surge like I do this, like I do here and here. So when you don't see such big volume spikes, that usually means that the turnover was more kind of more prepared, you should say, not so emotional. And if turnovers are emotional, they usually lead to some big movements. So here we actually can expect, due to a big time span of the turnover, we can expect actually the beginning of a new bullish trend that's gonna take a while to develop, and that is not gonna be unsustainable. And by the way, I use logarithmic scale here on daily chart, and I usually do use logarithmic scale on any cryptocurrency because they're so fast, because they trade worldwide, and what took S&P several years to make a certain price dynamics, it takes only a couple of months of BTC dynamics to to kind of cut up the S&P. So yeah, I always advise you to use logarithmic scale. So here, overall, we might expect the beginning of the new bullish trend. We also can we can make a certain resistance, a downwards sloping trend line that was actually also penetrated somewhere here. So I would expect that this is a good point to consider maybe buying, but we still need to see a progression of upward of higher peaks and higher throats. So maybe it's still a little bit early to invest if you're a long-term investor, but still it's a good case to start considering long positions instead of short positions. So now we scale in and we start considering an hourly chart, and after this clip, we're actually gonna consider mostly hourly charts in our weekly analysis. So on hourly chart, we actually see that price is in a certain range right now, and actually, a lot of people consider that this to be a good support and this to be a range bearer, but I actually shift a little bit lower, and I think that this is much better support. So 8.3K would be a much better support than 8.7K, because a previous peak is always a better support than a previous throat. So this is something a lot of people actually forget about, but still this is the situation and how it really looks like. Otherwise, we can actually say that if we consider this as a progressive peak, then support might ensue on 9K level. So here I would actually say that in terms of long positions, and we kind of indicated on the daily chart that it's better to go long positions here, I wouldn't do I guess there are actually two cases of what you can do. You can start buying on level of 8.8 or 8.85k, with a stop loss being just below the range. But once again, it's just if you consider this to be a better support line, I consider this peak to be a much better support line. What I don't like right now is that the price actually crossed a moving average, but on the other hand, if you count the number of intersections of price and moving average, you see that there were a lot of them. And this actually means that we might expect some big movement. And it also kind of see you also kind of see here a certain triangle, but I wouldn't say that this is a sustainable pattern right now, because it took a lot of time, and apex seems to be quite close to price right now, and these patterns are just not good enough. So two options: you either start maybe buying somewhere here, which I would say a good choice. There's a low risk and potentially high return. But once again, the probability that such trade with a narrow stop works is limited. Otherwise, I would suggest maybe consider buying if price goes higher than 9.6k, and then even increase in position if you see something like price moving above 9.8k. So in terms of Williams, we can see that even though the price just penetrated the simple moving average line, it's kind of close to its oversold area. And in terms of Bitcoin, as research on our own research have shown that it's much better to buy on oversold area. On traditional market, it's not always so. So buying on oversold area, so somewhere here, might be a good choice. But once again, actually, yeah, this is kind of maybe a really good choice, because it just crossed moving average line with a smooth RSI almost being oversold. So I actually consider this to be a pretty good, maybe a pretty good trade. So you can also, by the way, for those who like more visual techniques, you can build a trend line here, and it's actually just about to maybe bounce from the trend line. So what you can actually do is to put a buy order somewhere here and put stop order somewhere below this peak, which is approximately 8.8k. So this would be also probably a really nice trade. And now we're moving forward.